Greetings, my friend. Welcome back again to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Schifferly with another video to help simplify your training and help you escape from the diet and exercise rat race. Today's topic is an introduction video to a concept that I've been explaining in all of my books and all of my videos and podcasts and everything, all about chain training. Now, chain training is not about a particular type of training. It's not about use of specific exercises or particularly anything with equipment like rings or anything. In fact, it's one of those things you can apply to any sort of strength and conditioning, more of as a way of how to categorize and perceive what your body's doing to make it safer, more effective, more consistent, and it's a heck of a lot easier to program. I created it when I was writing my second book, Smart Bodyweight Training, because I was looking for a way to categorize and bring some sort of a simplified way of looking at how we're grouping exercises together, because at that point, everything was either what muscle group are you training, like I'm training legs or shoulders or arms, like bodybuilding style, which is really good for helping you to focus on what muscles you're using, but it may not be all that applicable for like functional aspects of things. But then, of course, in the early aughts, I got big into functional training and everybody was like, I don't train muscles, I train movements. So it was about running and jumping and lifting and pressing and all those types of actions, which was great for the functionality and athleticism, but it kind of left the whole what muscles are you supposed to be using and engaging off the table. So chain training is all about thinking of the body in terms of tension chains, which is both kind of movements and muscles. For example, this is push chain. Push chain is any type of motion that is involved pushing the hands away from your body under resistance. And this is, of course, push-ups, variations, dips, handstand presses, overhead presses, bench presses, machine presses, everything else. It includes your chest, shoulders, triceps, and to a certain extent your extensors in your forearms. Conversely, the pull chain is any type of activity you're doing where you are pulling your hands towards your torso under resistance. So this is rows, pull-ups, pull-downs, single arm rows, even some variations of carries can be considered pull chain activities, and it involves all of the muscles in your back, the back of your shoulders, of course, biceps, and your grip. And then lastly, we have your squat chain. And squat chain is any kind of action that is using your lower body, so it's every muscle in your legs, to get your hip and your heel closer and further apart. So you're bringing these 2 points together and further away from each other. So of course that's naturally squats, lunges, leg press, leg extension, leg curls, anything where these 2 points are getting closer and further apart from one another under resistance is considered squat chain. And those are the three what I call your movement chains, because they're responsible for moving either your body or external objects through space to a great degree. The other three chains are your support chains, and these are the ones that help to support your body to facilitate those kinds of movements, and these are your classic anatomical chains, your anterior, posterior, and lateral chains. Only for the purpose of chain training, we label it a little bit more as related to the function of it. So you have your anterior or your flexion chain, which is everything on the front side of the body, quads, hip flexors, but it's probably more associated with your abdominals for anything where you are flexing your body under resistance. Then, of course, you have your extension chain, aka your posterior chain, which is hamstrings, glutes, spinal erectors, and all of the muscles on the back of the body that are responsible for extending the body up against gravity, kind of in the opposite motion. Also included like bridges, kettlebell swings, deadlifts, anything where you're extending yourself against resistance. And then finally, we have your lateral chain, which is all the muscles along the side of the body to either move or support the body against resistance, side planks, suitcase deadlifts, suitcase carries, even pressing a weight overhead on one side is lateral chain. And that's kind of a unique one because all of the muscles in your lateral chain are still worked with all of the other chains. But remember, chain training is not about using muscles, It's about utilizing the muscles as a cohesive synergistic unit. So even though my lats, my shoulders, and my hips are all worked with all the other chains, they're not used in that cohesive way as when I do a side plank. Now I am asking everything to work to squeeze the floor underneath, so I'm getting that functional aspect while also ensuring all of the links, aka muscles, are working in a very balanced, holistic way. There are a lot of benefits that come from utilizing this approach with our strength training. The first of which is it makes programming real easy, because instead of trying to think of every conceivable little muscle that you could work and trying to figure out how to work it all into your workouts, and every conceivable movement or athletic ability and trying to figure out how to program that, you only have the 6 tension chains that you need to program throughout the week. So you could do full body training 2 different ways. One is with all of the movement chains in one workout. So you got push, pull, squat, which will carry the load for the bulk of if you're trying to develop overall strength and your physique. That's why I wrote the ebook, Push, Pull, Squat. Really, really simple, just 1 or 2 movements per each tension chain and you're covered. Or you can have a little bit more of a therapeutic aspect of your full body training with an ELF workout, which is extension, lateral, and flexion chains all at once, and then you're working maybe even a circuit or straight sets of that, and that's a full body workout. You can also program it for push and pull, so push chain, pull chain, extension chain, and squat chain in different workouts. You could do upper, lower, however you want to do it, but instead of thinking of muscles and movements and trying to figure that all out, now it's just what chains do you program for each day of the week, and you're ensuring that as long as you get all 6 to some degree, you're getting all of your bases covered. But probably the biggest benefits of chain training isn't so much in the simplification of programming, but how we're perceiving how we're using our muscles in our workouts. Because the common idea is to use passive muscle tension. So if I'm doing seated pull-ups, for example, I'm assuming that my lats and my biceps and shoulders and all of that is working as it should, and hoping it's going to work together in a functional way because I'm doing the exercise. But remember that the tension in your muscles and how your muscles are engaging themselves in a holistic and functional way is due to the engagement of your nervous system. In other words, your focus and concentration, not whether or not I'm using gymnastics rings or what kind of exercise I'm doing. That's merely the application of the tension I'm using. So by thinking to myself, this is a pull chain workout, I'm concentrating on engaging all of those muscles, like a bodybuilder, in a synergistic way as a cohesive single unit, like an athlete. So I'm not thinking biceps or lats or traps or grip. I'm thinking pull chain, and I want all of those things working kind of like as one solid piece. If I'm doing an exercise and I'm like, it's all in my biceps, and it's not at all feeling it in my lats, I know I'm doing something wrong. I'm not engaging the muscles properly. I need to get better muscle engagement, better technique, maybe utilizing a different grip, something to make the entire pull chain work as one unit as opposed to a bunch of individual pieces. Not only does mastery of tension chains make your workouts simpler and more functional, but also a lot more effective, more satisfying, more consistent, and safer. Because if you're doing pull-ups one day and you're like, it's all in my elbows because you're not engaging your back well enough or using the full chain, then that's putting stress in your joints. Or if you're doing push-ups one day and you're like, I really got it in my chest, and then the next workout you're like, I'm not getting it in the chest hardly at all, that's another sign that your technique or tension control or utilization of the chain as a whole is a little bit off. But when you get more proficient of utilizing all of the muscles in the chain in one big chunk, your workouts are safer, more effective, and a lot more satisfying on a very consistent basis. And chain training doesn't only require the use of basic compound full body movements either. You can certainly take it with a bodybuilding approach where I'm doing like tricep extensions and I'm creating a lot of emphasis in my triceps, but you don't want to isolate, you want to still integrate. So I'm still engaging my shoulders, I'm still engaging my back and my chest, at least a little bit, And that again provides support, so there's a lot less stress in my joints. I don't feel this at all in my elbows. It's also creating potentially a lot more tension in the muscles you're targeting, because your nervous system is much more likely to engage the muscles you're working in a more stable environment. As I always said, you're only as strong as you are stable. So if we're trying to isolate and turn everything off and still get my triceps on, not only does that potentially leave my joints less stable, but it also sends a signal throughout my whole nervous system of shut everything down, don't turn stuff on. So even though I'm putting resistance against my triceps, I still am subduing the whole process. But when I've got everything else on, to at least some degree, you don't need like maximum tension and everything, then the brakes are off and my nervous system can drive a lot more tension into those target muscles, so I can make them potentially much, much bigger and stronger while keeping my joints safer. So again, chain training is not a type of exercise or workout program or use of a particular piece of equipment. It's more of just a perception of how we're breaking up, utilizing, and working the body as a whole to work muscles like a bodybuilder, movements like an athlete, and efficiency like someone who doesn't have their entire life to spend in the gym. And if you want to learn more about this, you can literally pick up almost any of my books, because it is used in all of the books that I have, from Grind Style Calisthenics, Smart Bodyweight Training, and Micro Workouts. But if you really want to kind of get a first idea for this, check out either my quick read, Push Pull Squat, or my book, Grind Style Calisthenics, which goes into it a lot more in detail on how you can address each link or muscle in the chain, kind of like bodyweight bodybuilding, to get an idea of how you can apply it, just not in calisthenics, but in working out as a whole. Thank you very much for watching. As always, love to hear your thoughts down below. Likes, shares, all that sort of thing, greatly appreciated. I'll talk to you in the next video. Till then, be fit and live free.